All right, we're here with Boobjester, Bob. We'll definitely have to get into that name and where that comes from.
Oh yeah, let's get it
But
all. Let's talk about it all.
Boobjester, Dangerous Goods, Maximum Efficiency, Wintor Massiv, Unity Charity. Thanks for taking the time to have a little chat and share your story, share some stories with us. Yeah,
Oh, thank you for having me.
yeah,
Your congratulations on this podcast, webcast that you do.
yeah,
Got a lot of followers and
yeah.
everybody's listening. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's been falling behind a bit lately, but still trying to keep it going and just have people share their stories because I think it's important. So, speaking of sharing stories, for anyone who doesn't know
Yeah.
who you are, do you mind kind of just introducing yourself and letting people know who you are?
All right. Well, my name is Bob, aka B-Boy Boob Jester, represent Dangerous Goods, MEC, Winter Massive Unity Charity, coming out of Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Currently living in Toronto, Aurora, Ontario. And just blessed to be alive during this time. You know what I'm saying? It's been a long time dancing, and hopefully I can answer all the questions and all that good stuff. So that's what it is.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, first things first. Can you get into a bit of like the history of where your name comes from? Because it's always been one of
Okay,
the most interesting names that I've seen in the breaking world.
well that's what it is. Well, I come from a generation where you should come with something original. It's all about originality back in the
Yeah,
days,
yeah.
and the story goes. I started breaking in 1994 with my first group called Mischief. I'll loop it into like a little bit of history
Sure, sure.
about myself too. So. And my first breaking name was Bones because I was super skinny back in the day. So so it was Bones for like a good like 2 months. Shout out to Benzo because his first breaking name was also Bones. Um, and then I was watching one of my favorite movies from the 80s was Top Gun, and there's a pilot. One of the instructors, his name was Jester.
Right, right.
So I thought that was really cool. And I was like, oh, that's cool, Jester, and like Jester like to entertain on the floor or something like that.
Hmm.
Just I'm like 14 years old, little kid, and I think a couple of years in, around like 96, 97, I found out there was another Jester in Toronto that
Oh,
started
that's right.
breaking this Jazzy Jester. Um, so I was like, okay, well, I'm never gonna go there and battle him because it's like Toronto's so far away. I'm like this 16-year-old kid. So I was like, I figured I just put Boob in front of my name. So Boob is what my friends call me. It's a hybrid uh, evolution of Bob throughout the years. So Bob, Boob, Bobbert, everything that. But Boob is the one that's stuck. And what kind of solidified Boob Jester was Asian Avenue. It was kind of like it was my name for Asian Avenue. It was Boob Jester because I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna hybrid it into one. And it wasn't at first. It wasn't meant to be my breaking name, but after after I found out that about Jester, and I was like, okay, well, Boob Jester, I guess. Like it has nothing to do with juggling boobs or anything like that, and being boobs. So nothing perverted or anything. It was just a hybrid of of Bob and Jester, my breaking name originally. Shout out to Jazzy Jester too. So that's kind of like how Boob Jester became, and I also thought it was funny. I was like, what if I become a famous b-boy and then they just know me as they'll always remember this one name that we'll never forget. So Boob Jester, there it is. That's how
Yeah,
it became.
it's definitely one of a kind. Yeah,
Hmm.
but always like that the idea of like where people's names come from, and some people have like really cool like oh it has this deep meaning and all this
Yeah,
stuff, and then some names are just kind of like it just you kind of fell into it sort of,
yeah,
and like
yeah.
it just stuck, and it doesn't necessarily have this like cool intricate whatever deep meaning. It was just kind of like that's just
Yeah,
the name that
I-
they called you. It's like a nickname
yeah.
or something, or
I think
just
it's like we're breaking like traditionally someone's supposed to give you a name. I've seen somebody pick their own names.
hmm.
I think these days people are just using their name,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, and I'm just like,
We got
oh, be
B-boy
a bit more creative.
Jimmy.
try and throw something in there, you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah, yeah,
this is what it is. But I think either way, uh, once you get a name and it sticks, then that's you. So
yeah,
you better make
exactly,
something out of it,
exactly.
right? So
Um,
yeah.
yeah. Uh, can you get into a little bit about like how you got into breaking and kind of your journey so far?
Yeah, totally. Let's so like I said before, like I think in Winnipeg, breaking our dancing was just a big part of like of Filipino culture, pop culture, urban culture
Hmm.
of us growing up. We have like one of the largest Filipino populations per capita in
That's right.
Winnipeg in like North America. So it's really, really interesting place to have that kind of demographic. But it's always since I could remember, like it's always been part of like traditional Filipino dancing and choreo like hip hop dancing, groove dancing, group styles, New Jack Swing was all always the craze. And even before that was breaking, which a lot of it started with the Filipinos in the 1980s, probably far back like 84. It was probably the first cruise in Winnipeg,
Damn.
Winnipeg Dynamic and Midnight Breakers. So they were a lot of the influence growing up as a teenager, a Filipino teenager in Winnipeg. So I started dancing, like just doing anything dance around like 1990, 91, like running mans and stuff. You know, you're a
Mm.
little kid, your brother's doing it, it's being done at parties. But actual breaking did start in like 1994. And around that time, every high school kind of had like a breaking cruise. So there was about a good like 10, 15 breaking cruise, like full Filipino breaking cruise in Winnipeg. It's pretty intense. So it was all the craze. We weren't like hip hop heads or anything like yo, I'm hip hop culture. It's just like, yo, he's spinning on his head. That's fucking cool. I want to do that myself. Can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, perfect. So around that time, like it was really popular, and around 96, 97, kind of died out a little bit. It turned into, oh, you still break dance. That's
Mm-hmm.
not a thing anymore. And I slowed down too, but I think a lot of people were just kind of, hey, can you still do your windmill and stuff like that? So it was really cool to just kind of like just like continue to dance with a couple of my crew members. My first crew was Mischief Crew, Mischievous Tricks, back at from 95 to like 96, 94 to 96. And one of my friends went to Calgary and brought back a tape, Battle of the Year '96, and that's the first time we saw like European like
Mm.
breaking and power moves. Because power back in the day, like their only influences were like Beat Street, Break In, maybe some videos from Cali
Right.
with like Jughead's crew and stuff like that, and uh, and then Bag of Tricks on Much Music were kind of like the only videos access or whatever videos were showing. And then when he came with Battle Year '96, we started seeing like power combos, like Flair '90s.
Yeah, yeah.
First time I ever saw like baby mills or we call it corkscrews in Winnipeg.
Hmm.
So it was like really cool to experience that, and that kind of like motivated me specifically to learn the baby mills because I was like, yo, that's really cool. So that's how I kind of got back into breaking a lot more. And then by the time it was like 90, 90, 98, 99, some of the first breaking battles were happening again. Because back in the day in Winnipeg, we used to battle at a mall called Garden City, where all the teens used to go and we'd break in the parking lot, pull out
Really?
cardboard back up, and then that was the jam. Like there was no jams. The people didn't throw jams, and we'd battle on the cardboard, and it's like super shitty breaking. We're only been breaking for like 7, 8 months, so it's like we all had to do like one move, a backspin.
Nice.
So and then I think that kind of like evolved into, so fast forward to '98, battles happened. That's '98 was when we started our second crew, Goodfoot crew, which is funny because now there's a Goodfoot crew in Japan.
Yeah,
But we
that's
had
right.
I was part of a crew called Goodfoot between 1999 and 2001, '98 and 2001, which is kind of like by that time all of breaking has kind of died out in Winnipeg,
Hmm.
and we were like just this random breaking crew with, and I think there was one younger crew called Trick Kids, which Arthur, Ricky, and Phil, and some of the younger guys in Dangerous Goods are part of. They were kind of like the younger generation of breakers, along with Goodfoot crew, which kind of that eventually formed two crews into Dangerous Goods, and that's kind of like how that formed. We can talk about DGC after that, but DGC is kind of like where that was like the where we tried to set the standard for Winnipeg breaking and tried to come up with our own styles, and that goes on into the future. But yeah, that's kind of like the '90s for me, a little bit for the for the '90s generation, and then Dangerous Goods is like a whole other thing that we can talk about if you have questions about that.
Yeah, I mean, we can get into that right now if you want.
No, well then,
If you want to keep going.
we could do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, like around like 2000, between 98 and 2000, there'd be like one jam a year in Winnipeg. One specifically was the annual Mid Canada Breaking Battle, and the what you call it, Break for Bread, which is one of the longest running breaking jams in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
From 1999, and probably I think the last one was done in 2014. So it was there was a trend where there's people kind of like lightly breaking, but never took it seriously, like how kind of we compete now. They just like, okay, Break for Bread's coming, let's train like two weeks before Break for Bread, and then whatever moves I remember, we're gonna do it right. So, but I think with my crew, Goodfoot and Trick Kids, we wanted to break all year long, and we just didn't want to wait for one jam a year. So both of our crews eventually died out in terms of going back to school, starting families, or just getting into bad shit. And there was like 3 of them left on Trick Kids, and 4 of us from Goodfoot, and we figured, let's go battle in Calgary and rep one last time, because I don't know if there's going to be any more breaking in Winnipeg, period. And that was like 2002. February 2002. Damn. February 9th, 2002. To be exact. We drove across the country to Calgary with these young kids, and we kept seeing the Dangerous Goods sign, which is kind of like toxic chemicals, like just weird shit that people drive on the highway, and they take a separate route because it's all fucked up. And we just kept seeing it as like, hey, that'd be cool to enter as Dangerous Goods if it's our last time. And then we went to compete at Battle of Alberta back in 2002, which at that time, like, there was crews like Constant Mayhem, kind of Original Roots. They were kind of defunct. They were like the older cats, but then they all kind of like Constant Mayhem, Floor Stylers, and Original Roots kind of meshed into one crew, just all Original Roots. So they're kind of like 3 crews from what I remember. Then I know Vancouver repped at that time, which was like now Soul Felons, but back in the day, like Straight No Chaser, so like G1, Rob Felon. Right. Some of the Body Language guys came out, like Kian and James. Smoothie. I'm just throwing out like these. Man, I haven't said those names in forever. But they were there. I just kind of trying to show you, like tell you what kind of like dancers were out at that time. So that they were kind of out there repping that West Coast shit. And then we got the Edmonton cats like Cree and James and Ridiculously, like their crew. So it's pretty cool. And then we had us random Winnipeg guys. So we went there, we repped as DGC, and we're like, you know what? This motivated us to like dance more and continue to dance, and we kind of like that jam kind of made it official for us to be a crew. So that's kind of like where Dangerous Goods started, and and then cats like Lesser and Kyle joined, and then like few years later we got like Candace and Doodles and Truth and Spook. So we have 14 members in our crew, 14, 15. Right. And yeah, people like Arnold along the way, like these cats. And we've just tried to rep, I think the whole philosophy of DGC is, and Winnipeg too as well. Winnipeg breaking is just, it was all about trying to be original no matter what it looked like. we motivated each other when we practiced with each other. It's not like, oh, let's recreate some sort of text that the whole crew does. It was like, how am I going to look different from Dark Mark or Arthur or fucking Truth? Like, why should I look like them? I want to do something. They do something crazy. It's like, yo, I'm going to fucking do something even more crazy. Try and create, right? So, so that like trying to be original combined with like making it look effortless and smooth was one of the other things that we always tried to do in our crew, and just rep where we're from. Like Winnipeg's a dope city, community, culture, arts, and it's also a rough city too as well. Where like most of my crew come from, like different parts of the hoods in Winnipeg. So, a lot of our friends, like they grew up doing other things that we just kind of like, okay, that's what you do. You do your thing. We're all friends. We're all cool, and they still support us. Because it's easy to go in another direction in Winnipeg. So breaking kind of kept it pretty tight for us and kept us motivated to be like, there has to be another way. There has to be an out other than like being going to school or being like some sort of drug dealer or gang, just shit like that. So kind of fall in between and just prove to everybody. And just repping Winnipeg, we're a small city and we want to show that us smaller cats, city cats can really rep and create and really motivate our community to be like, yo, y'all can like step out of Winnipeg too and go across the country, go compete here and there and try and do something, So that's kind of like the motivation for me at least, and to keep on repping.
Yeah, and I really think you guys did that. Like, I don't know, maybe other people have this feeling, and it's not just breaking, it's like I always feel like Canada has this sort of like, what do you call it? Almost like inferiority complex toward like, compared to like say the US. And it's like there's so many good dancers in Canada, but you don't really notice it until like they make it somewhere else or something like that.
Yeah.
But like until like when I was starting out and like kind of like midway through my whatever career or whatever, it was like the people that were known that you knew about in Canada that like made a name, most of the time it was the people from Toronto.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, I think I had met a couple guys. I think at this point, like Arthur had already moved out to Vancouver, and so I was like, met him a little bit, and Arnold was out there too already. And yeah, but I remember you guys released like a crew trailer or something like that. Back when I guess that was still a thing. Like, I don't know if people still do that anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe it's on like Instagram, people make something or whatever. But yeah, you guys made this thing and I was just like, I don't know. I really got like a feel of what your crew was like and the vibe that you guys are all about. And like you said, everyone looked really different, and you could see that like you guys tried to have your own, not just as a crew in general, but like each individual style. And and then just the vibe like that you guys had was like just rep who you are, rep where you're from, that kind of thing, and like, let people know that you exist, kind of thing. Like, we're here, and like
important, yo.
Yeah,
it's important to represent like that, like, and I think like especially now with so much access to like all this footage and instant gratification of watching live streams and stuff, it's like you don't get to like bubble in your own little world and try and create, like which is what I miss back in the day, is just being with the crew and just blasting the music and just fucking flowing and vibing out, freestyling, so it is important to rep where you're from. And I think like me and my crew, we hold a lot of integrity with what we represent as people from Winnipeg and whatever Saskatoon, wherever anybody else. But more importantly, what we rep as a crew. We've walked with that on our shoulders, both East and West, and got that respect. And Winnipeg's kind of like the bridge between East and West too. And we really want to try and connect both sides and continue to have those conversations. And so I'm like, we're blessed to kind of experience the West Coast breaking and be influenced by But like a lot of my influences are from like Vancouver from the very beginning, like with Contents Under Pressure and Straight No Chaser, and also seeing some of the young cats grow from Vancouver,
Hmm.
along with like all the Calgary cats, and then you go all the way to the east with like Bag Tricks and Boogie Brats and MEC and Supernaturals. Like everybody's super dope on
Hmm.
both sides, and you can kind of like you can see a certain style or the way a city moves
Hmm.
when you go across the country. So I spent a lot of my career traveling within Canada because I was like, fuck, everybody's so quick to go to LA or Florida or New York.
Hmm.
I was like, yo, man, there's so much talent within your country. Why don't you support that? And that's something I've been doing for many, many years, going
Hmm.
between East and West. I've been to honestly maybe two or maybe just two, three breaking jams in the States in my whole life.
Really?
Like, yeah, I've never only like um, Minnesota and like freestyle session. That's it. Like recent, like in 2014 in Minnesota in like 2008. I don't think I've really gone out any other
Hmm.
time. I spend most of my time going to Toronto and repping out there, and or
Yeah.
going to Calgary and whatnot. And
Yeah.
is also just like building within the communities as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, but you've seen a lot. You know, everybody has their own experience in their breaking and their own influences. But that's
Hmm.
what Winnipeg and Dangerous Goods was all about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I think that's a really interesting thing to kind of just bring up. I don't know if maybe a lot of people don't even really think about it that much, but like Canada's such a big country, but there's not a lot of people. And it's like people are kind of like spread out and stuff, and like
Yeah,
um it's a lot harder to travel around, but it's kind of cool of like Winnipeg being, like you said, Winnipeg being that sort of bridge between the East and the
hmm,
West.
yeah,
And it's, I like you said, it's a really like, I guess, sort of fortunate thing to be able to experience both of those like more
yeah.
easily than, or you kind of like, because you're in the
No,
middle,
it
you
is.
see
It's
that
true.
difference, right?
It's true. Like because we were in the center, we were able to experience both sides. Like,
Hmm.
and we had a lot of good friends on both sides. Like when we had our Dangerous Goods anniversary back in '09, we put like Filthee Feet people against
Yeah.
MEC people, but they didn't know who the fuck each other were really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like who's this? Who's Nastic? Who's Handles?
Yeah.
Who's Rory and fucking Siller? You know, like. But then
Yeah.
we put them. But we knew. I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like, yo, we should make these guys battle.
Yeah.
And then after that, like and they all know each other well, and they continue to like know each other. So it's just things like that. Like we
Hmm.
just have a certain angle from of breaking where I mean for us that if anybody asks us, do you rep East or you rep West? No, we just say, yo, we rep Winnipeg, and that's it. I
Yeah.
ain't
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
to. There's a lot of them. You can see guys are like, yo, man, you're East Coast. Like, and then some of the guys in the West, yo, man, you're West Coast. Like, nah, we're Winnipeg. We do our own thing.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to tell everybody we're cool, but don't
Yeah.
fuck
Yeah.
with us. Fucking battle us.
But that's like, that's one battle that I'm trying to find footage of, because you guys set up like Rory against Nastic, and I think there's a footage of that somewhere out there, and then
Yep,
Mark against Handles,
handles. Yep.
and I think there's footage of that maybe. But there was a battle like after, at like an after party outside
Oh
on
yeah,
the street.
it's on YouTube. I'll send you it. It's
Yeah,
on
you gotta send me. I couldn't
YouTube.
find
It's
it,
so
but
fucking
it's like,
funny.
I don't know. I have such fond memory. Like I wasn't there at that one, but just that kind of thing. Like that's
Yeah.
something that I miss as like part of the breaking community, is like people
Mhm.
just, like competitions are great and they push people to get better and stuff like that. But those kind of things where it's like spontaneous, you didn't plan it, it just happened somewhere. And like people
Yeah.
not necessarily like caring, they care but they don't care. Like they're like, fine, I'll battle you here on the concrete, and it's kind of like
Yeah.
just ridiculous that
Yeah.
it's happening. But that's what kind of makes it cool. And there's like these stories that happen, and yeah, people were like banging on the garbage
Yeah.
cans or something to like make drums and stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that vibe is like I said, like even like with right now with Wintor Massiv, which is kind of like our current. It's kind of like a Dangerous Kids MEC hybrid crew,
Hmm.
but more for like more producing events, like
Hmm.
creating. creating opportunities, and we all remember what that used to feel like.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why when Wintor Massiv throws an event, we want to just create that vibe again, the things that we used to remember.
Yeah.
Um, I think if you look in the right places, you can find that vibe.
Yeah, of course.
Um,
Yeah.
but definitely Winnipeg is just one of those. It's a party city too as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
you hang out with us, you'll get drunk and you'll party all night long. And but and that's why like I think with DGC like we enjoy breaking. We love it. It's intense when it's time to get it done right. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, we never took it too serious. Where it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm gonna be the best in the world kind of type shit.
Yeah.
It's more like, yeah, let's go break. I was like, oh, did we win? Nope, we lost. Okay, let's go drink. Like shit like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't take anything too much to heart in terms of winning or losing. It's just kind of like, okay, well, we rep what we rep. Like a lot of it was just like because that, like you said, that inferiority complex of like we want to represent, but we don't know if we're gonna fucking win. We're just fucking
Yeah.
from Winnipeg, right? Especially
Mm-hmm.
if, like when you go to like Vancouver, like Toronto, Montreal, it's like we don't know, but we're just gonna rep how we rep. So
Yeah,
it's
but I
just what it
think
is.
I don't know. I've always had this opinion, and maybe like who knows? You maybe if you want to be the best, you have to have the mentality of like I want to win at whatever
Yeah,
and all costs, or I don't know, whatever it is. Like you got to have a certain mentality to be one of
yeah,
those like top people. But you know, like I think there's a lot to be said about that, the mentality that you guys had, and I share that too. Of like you try and do what you do best, and if it works and people like it, then they like it. If they don't, then they don't. But as long as
yeah.
you're satisfied, it's like self-satisfaction.
That's what it
You
is. That's
enjoyed it,
exactly what.
and yeah.
Yeah, like I think just yeah, doing what you want to do. Because even now, like it's so geared towards winning competition
Hmm.
and adhering your style to like okay, calculated power style, top rock, blow up at the end. 2 minute set. Shit,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Back in the day, like people do like three moves and then crash and be like, it's awesome. Like it's so different, right? Like that
Yeah,
shit, the shit we used to do, like would never fly now because people were crashing all over the place sometimes.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
but that's the evolution, and I think at the end of the day, you kind of have to choose what direction, what kind of breaker you want to be, what kind of b
Hmm.
boy,
Yeah.
but because like now there's more opportunities. Back in the day, there wasn't two jams, three jams a year. Now you got like BC1 and you got the Olympics and Silverback. Like there's so
Hmm.
much thing, or you can be the raw b boy that just wants to be in the dark corner and just cipher all
Yeah,
night. Like
yeah,
so, like
exactly.
it's all there. Like I'm not hating on about the
Hmm.
evolution. It's all there. Fucking
Hmm.
do it. Like you want to be raw, go be raw. Like
Yeah.
as long as, but the essence of it is being a b boy. Always be ready to be called out, and that's just
Hmm.
it. Or be ready to battle because battling is in the blood of breakdancing. And that goes anywhere you go. Like whether it's like in the cipher or in competition. Like or if
Hmm.
you're judging. Like at the end of the day, like just be ready because somebody will just call you out, win or lose. Don't be afraid to
Hmm.
lose too. You'll learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I can't remember who I was talking to, but yeah, like I really feel like the more you get into breaking, or
hmm
just anything really, like, but especially breaking, because it's like when you're in a competition, or if you're in a cipher, and even if it's just dancing, or if you're in a battle, like you're always kind of putting yourself out there,
yeah,
and like you're kind of exposing yourself to
yeah,
it's a very vulnerable moment of like you're out there, this is what you do, these are your ideas, and everyone's watching it, and in a sense like judging it, in a sense,
yeah,
not necessarily like, oh, this guy sucks or whatever, but they're watching you and they're making an opinion of what you're doing
yeah,
and this
yeah,
kind of thing, right? So like
yeah,
it is kind of like, in a way, you learn a lot about yourself, like you said,
yeah.
or or you just start to think about that, or whatever. It's kind of like you can be introspective, and in a lot
hmm
of ways it can be very therapeutic for you, depending how you look at it and stuff like that. And yeah.
yeah. I think
um mm,
like and that's the whole point of like the work with like Unity Cherry and Blueprint and all these
right,
other
right.
great organizations across the floor is once you get to a certain point in your dance as an artist, as a dancer, like you really realize how like internally it changes you, and the way you think and the way you apply it to like other things in your life. And
Hmm.
uh, and that's what I've learned ultimately. Me and my crew is just like it's not about the dance anymore. The dance is what helped us give us a way of thinking about life.
Hmm.
So that's what I hope people get from this dance. I mean, past because I like I have my own like curriculum of teaching and stuff like when I teach my own like intermediate advanced breaking. And I always say at the very beginning, you're like this hungry b-boy that's just like smoke everybody, be smoke, be cocky, do whatever the fuck you want. And then there comes a time when you learn your flow, execution, originality. It goes down the line, power moves, foundation, and then at the very end, like you come to a place where it's like you have epiphanies of your own breaking, where it's like, oh yeah, this is connected. If I work hard, you can be dope, and I can apply this to school, right? So,
Hmm. Hmm.
so like I think that's the biggest lesson that everybody should take away because I'll guarantee you right now, like it's a really hard to be a career b-boy,
Hmm.
but you can really learn something from this dance and really apply it to everything else that you're going to do moving forward in your life. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's what I think like some of the valuable lessons there are. But hey, if you're the hot shit right now, yo, go for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
You so I think that the mentality is such an important thing,
Hmm.
and but there's so much to talk about all that stuff. So
Yeah.
I'll just stop. Do my
Yeah.
drink.
But yeah, like transferable skills, the mentality that led you to be
Mhm.
a great dancer can help you to be a great, whatever you're deciding to do.
Yeah,
If you want to become a doctor, or you want to be, or if you just not even like whatever, if you want to just work a job, whatever it
yeah,
is, like I want to, be a butcher, or a whatever. I want to be a garbage man. That's or whatever. That's like the job that you fall into. But like you can take that
yeah,
same mentality and like
yeah.
do it 100% and do it well, and you be good at what you do,
Mhm.
whatever it is. Doesn't matter what
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
And I think, and you said a very important thing about breaking being very therapeutic, because I know the dance, like I had a strong belief, like I always said to myself, like no matter what happens in my life, like breaking will like never break up with me or and things like that. And I've used it for in times where I was going through rough patches,
Hmm.
like my dad passing away and things like that, and like long time ago, and I was like I remember breaking after that, and I couldn't even feel my body moving and stuff. So, but it's a way to get out your stress, your anger, and things like that.
Hmm.
Like my wife Virginia, she's like a expressive arts therapist too as well. Shout out to Virginia. And she really breaks down the the somatic therapy of dance, like how deep it can get and how your body holds that trauma, and you need to
Hmm.
find ways to release it. So I
Yeah.
think yeah, and it goes into like that's what that work with like Unity Charity and Blueprint of really finding an outlet and figuring out ways to express it and start those conversations. Just like you said, like you're being vulnerable with your style, you're showing it to people. It's the same thing with your feelings and emotions. Like
Hmm.
sometimes people don't want to do that,
Hmm.
but eventually like through this dance and through arts you can really experience like finding that identity and finding that safer place to like kind of do those things.
Hmm.
So I think like the work that Unity Charity and Blueprint, places like Graffiti Gallery in Winnipeg and
Hmm.
Montreal and Vancouver have a lot of dope initiatives too as well in Calgary. Like everybody's kind of like it's like we've created a whole nother industry for us as dancers
Hmm.
and us as hip hop heads to
Yeah.
work within the communities, right?
Yeah.
Because we recognize how valuable this shit is to us.
Hmm. And like I don't know, maybe this is a Canadian bias, and I just know a lot of people in Canada and what they're up to and stuff like
Yeah,
that. But I feel like there's a lot like that kind of aspect of breaking or whatever, of doing that kind of work with say
yeah,
hip hop or breaking. There's a lot of that in Canada, like you said. And
yeah.
I I don't know about other countries, but I feel like, Canada is really pushing that and really taking it in new, interesting directions and, um, just really showing the positive benefits of this whole thing and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
what you said.
I would say that Canada is the leader, one of the leaders of hip hop in community and
Mm-hmm.
mental health, mental wealth. You know what I'm saying? Well being.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and some of the most original styles
Yeah.
of breaking.
Yeah.
Like can't discount that.
Yeah.
It's like with so much originality and style combined with like the heart of breaking. Like I think there's a lot of dope cats around Canada. I've met so many dope b-boys
Mm-hmm.
and so many crews, and I'm proud of what everybody's done across the country. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Um, I guess this is a good time to kind of get into some of the maybe the more details about the work that you do with, say, community and
Mm-hmm.
so some of the stuff that you did in Winnipeg was with Graffiti Gallery. I only
Mm-hmm.
know like a little bit about that, so maybe you can touch on that. And then the work that you do
Mm-hmm.
with charity and Unity Charity, and you've done some stuff with Blueprint, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you
Yeah.
want to talk
So
about that stuff
yeah,
more in
for
more
sure.
detail?
Like in Winnipeg, there was an organization called Graffiti Art Programming, also known as Graffiti Gallery. They started in 1999. I joined them around 2007, 2008. And as a breaking instructor, had kind of a sense of what community work was, but not really through my art form, like,
Mm-hmm.
and really didn't understand it at that point. But as I went into these communities in the north end of Winnipeg and working with some of these kids at the community centers, like walking away from like those breaking classes really left me with like, oh, I did something good today, like some positive like shit to feel good about, and just support these young people that don't really have nothing else to do around the around their neighborhood. So that's kind of like how I got into community work. I've worked for places like the Merc, which is in the West End. I've worked with a lot of the youth. I did a circus camp as one of the only breakers amongst circus people, and it's one of those things I didn't expect to be as a career for
Mm-hmm.
myself, and as a direction. And in 2012, I joined Blueprint for Life, and then I went on one of my first northern trips, and that was really amazing to experience that and find value in giving back to an isolated community, which they also do work in the prisons across the country, the youth prisons, youth corrections too. So doing some of that work with Blueprint was really dope. It really opened my eyes to the culture, all the different cultures that some of these youth are uh, exposed to and embedded in their blood and trying to find. And it really kind of like helped me want to like learn more about my culture, like my Philippine culture too, as well. So just really kind of like that's what I've taken from it, and it's been a dope ass experience. So between I worked at graffiti art programming till 2016. I became the program director there for about 4 years before I moved to Toronto. And then once I moved to Toronto, just knocked on Unity's door. I'm like, yo, y'all need work, and they just happened to be hiring a national program director, program manager. So um, I got linked into Unity, and the rest is history. And
Mm-hmm.
just like the ways of like nonprofit and the way it works, just like working within the communities, but even managing like uh, a nonprofit or a charity organization is such a tricky thing,
Mm-hmm.
uh, in balancing administration and doing the work.
Yeah.
I'm more on the administrative side right now, but been in the front lines for about like 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been an amazing ride and great to share my talents and experiences, and also learn from all the experiences and the young people that I've worked with, and they've taught me a lot. So like that's kind of like in a nutshell, I already and just like giving them the chance to express themselves and learn something new. It's
Mm-hmm.
really exciting. but also being able to take my learnings and bring it into different organizations, like you bringing the things I learned from Blueprint into Unity and things I learned from Unity to Blueprint and such, and finding ways to work with the artists and that to create like specific adapted programming to whoever
Hmm.
we're serving at that point. It's such an interesting it's such an interesting like dive in to learn, especially now as like as the social climate of the world,
Hmm.
the Black Lives Matter, the BIPOC, Indigenous, like there's so much things to be mindful about and think about. And if I can say this about any organization that's working in communities, is like everybody's trying their best to put their feet forward to go into the to work with these communities closely
Hmm.
and find best ways and safe ways to bring programming to y'all. And it's been really cool to learn from everybody how to continue this work. So I'm blessed, and
Hmm.
I give props to anybody that gives back to their community in any way.
Yeah. I think it kind of goes back a bit to you were mentioning like, when you're teaching breaking or whatever intermediate, whatever advanced kind of stuff, and everyone gets
Mm-hmm.
to a point where like you've learned all this stuff and you've gotten to this certain level or whatever, and like maybe you start looking more into like kind of, yeah, introspective or this kind of thing, or like why you're doing it, or you start thinking about the mentality more. And I really think like, you know whether it's not just breaking, like anything that you do, at some point, like the more you do it, it stops
Mm-hmm.
being about you and like only, well, how can this benefit me, or what can I do for myself, and it
Yeah,
starts to like, I guess you kind of figure that out and you're like, all right, I'm good. And then you start branching out and you start to feel like, you know this thing helped me so much, or whatever it is, whatever your reason is, like it helped me so much, or
mm-hmm.
for, like you said, with a lot of people in Winnipeg, like they could have gone this way into like,
Yep,
say, gangs or just bad stuff that leads them down this other path that's not necessarily good, or they can go
yeah,
this way and it can take them into these positive things and really help their lives and
yeah,
get them into these directions. But like, yeah, I think especially as you get older, you start to look at like, yeah, how can I share this? It's more about sharing and giving
yeah,
back and less about taking, right?
yeah.
And
I think it's amazing. I think like our generation, and I include you in our generation of like the
yeah,
past, the
yeah,
bigger of the over 30s club,
yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
are more equipped now and realize like what we can and are willing to do for the community. Like for example, you talking and digging deeper with some of the breakers across Canada about their history and things like that and what it means to them. I think because I think like in the breaking history in Canada is like so dope. I've followed it. I've seen
Mm-hmm.
things change, evolve. I've seen generations change it, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it's super dope to make sure that that is documented and it's not lost. Like things like freaking bag of clips on IG. Like
Mm-hmm.
you'll find like some of the rarest shit, but then the people you see on there is your favorite b-boy's favorite b-boy,
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah.
and but we can't. I don't want to lose that because I do come from those generations where some of the earlier cats like Contents Under Pressure and Dead Reckoning and stuff, all the way to like seeing Boogie Brats and Bag of Tricks. Like I don't want that type of history to be lost, and for and those generations to come, and people that still are willing to give back to the community from those generations have
Mm-hmm.
that knowledge to be put forward. And I think it's so important as a Canadian community to continue to do that. So props to you once again to for doing this work and digging deep and trying to find answers, because it's really cool, like some of the stories you'll find out from some of these middle school old school cats, so that's
Yeah, for
super
sure.
important.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's part of like, yeah, why I wanted to do this is like,
Hmm.
There's so many there's so many people in Canada that have, well, just in general, not even just Canada, but Canada sometimes, like, the stories don't get told, or whatever. Like, I
Hmm.
don't know, there's always been this sort of underground feeling to it that the people that know, but
Exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't know. So what's the
Yeah.
best way to do it? Is like just start getting these stories and getting people's histories, and just having a place for them to sort of like live, I guess, if it's
Hmm.
online or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
but like, people, if you let people talk, like, they got a lot of interesting things to share, I think.
Yeah.
So just
And I
giving
think,
people, yeah.
yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
like Canada. I think Canada is literally in our own little bubble. Like we kind of like know the who's within Canada,
Hmm.
and we don't even know if anybody knows anybody from Canada other than like the most
Hmm.
popular breakers in the world from
Hmm.
Canada. So so it's I've been living in that bubble for a really long time, and I like it's a really dope like history and culture and that I want to try and continue to cultivate and try and bring as much people together um, across the country as I can with all the different initiatives, you know. So I think it's really dope to be influenced by Canadians for Canadians and do everything for that for the scene.
Hmm.
I think that's just what it is. That's what my life has become at this point is to do that.
Well,
So
I
it's fun.
think
It's a good time.
that's a noble cause,
Hmm.
because I've heard it so many times over the years. Like, you know, it's kind of like everyone loves Canada, but no one wants to, like, how do I put this? No one wants to, like, really, like, give them props, give us props, something like that. Like, people.
Yeah,
I think part of it is like a lot of the way that we consider, like, what is valuable within the breaking community, like, as a whole.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what do we value, is like a lot of it is because it's built off of this, like, make a name for yourself and build this rep in the
Hmm.
circle through battles and stuff like that. So that's what, obviously, what people will value, is like, oh, this person won this competition, they did this, whatever, whatever. And, like, so they'll have that sort of whatever status. But I think a lot of the stuff that goes on in Canada, like we kind of talked about, is like building community, building within your own city, and doing giving people positive, like, outlets to express themselves, or whatever, or even just, like, kind of, we talked about this before, is like bridging these gaps within Canada itself, of like, because everyone's so spread out, there's so many, it's so rare that like, people from across the country can come
Yeah,
and build in their own, within their own country, and meet these other people. And, like, I think people in Canada have done a really good job of, like, trying to do that, and trying to bring people together, and, like, connect people. And I think that's such an important, like, job of breaking, is like, just bringing people together, whether it's in your own city, or like
yeah.
if you think of a jam, that's what it is. It's like people come
Hmm.
together, and, like, the competition is there, and that's something that motivates people to train or whatever. But in the end, like, for me, what really kept me going, and makes me still want to do it, is like the social aspect. You go to a jam, and you dance and stuff, but a lot of it is like just meeting up with old friends that you don't see all the time, and you just get down in the circle with
Yeah,
them, and then afterward you're like, yo, how you been, and you just
yeah,
catch up and stuff like that. Like, it's a
yeah.
gathering.
That,
It's a social gathering.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a social gathering which COVID just killed.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I do say like I totally agree with you with that. And I did lie. I did lie. I lied to you. I have been to America a few more times than what I just said. It all started coming back to me because when you reminded me about like like gathering and things like that, and just like repping. And I was like, on the flip side of things, of all the positivity, like when we did go out like to compete, like we repped our asses off, like in
Hmm.
another country. Like it was the Americans like that really motivated me to like to like go hard at them.
Hmm.
Like it was like whenever I battled an American or something like that, there was a different motivation to like destroy them, you know, like
Yeah.
as opposed to battling someone in Canada.
Hmm.
So so like when like repping in the site, like I've yeah, going to Outbreak and like even like Minnesota and Seattle. Like I've been to Seattle once. It
Hmm.
was really dope. But just like really seeing the styles on the floor and seeing like, yo, we can hang with these guys. We can do this shit.
Yeah.
Our styles better than our styles better than like 70% of the people in the room. Like why are Canadians like so shy to do their thing, you know? So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just what it is. But yeah, like peace, love, and happiness, but also war when it's time to do it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Americans always did that to me. Shout out to you, Americans, though, for motivating
Yeah.
me. Because
Yeah. And there's
y'all are,
something to be there's something to be said about like, you know, friendly rivalries. Like,
yeah.
sometimes I don't know, it can depend on people's perspectives, but like, some people can be
Did you ever
like,
have a rival? Who's the person that someone always said you should always battle this person?
oh, like personal rival?
Yeah. Did someone that
I
was
don't
like, dude,
know.
this is your guy, dude. You always have to battle him all the time.
I don't think there was anything too serious or whatever, but when I first started, it just kind of happened this way for whatever reason. But there was a guy in Floor Storm. His name is Rich
Oh,
Rocca. And just
okay.
like we didn't hate each other or anything like that, but just we would meet each other in battles and stuff, and it would always be like he'd go and I would go or whatever, something like that.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen too much. So like I never really had a real like rival. I don't know. But our crew definitely had, NON to push us.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's
And like,
classic.
yeah, so like Vancouver, and at least in my generation, like NON was
Mhm.
always the ones. It was like us or NON, or Soul Fountains too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then,
Wow.
yeah, like Floor Storm too. But the big rivalry, I think, was like us and NON. Oh, I guess it was like NON and any other crew in Vancouver, really, because they were like, yeah, I mean, they still are. They're one of the top crews out there too.
Yeah.
Um,
When you're on top, people wants to knock you down.
yeah, and then, like,
But
yeah, go ahead.
no, no, no. Like I was listening.
Uh,
I was just saying, like, yeah, like when you're on top, people want to knock you down. And I was also going to say that I don't even know if rival really exists anymore in breaking these
yeah,
days. Like, I don't really see like a hardcore like don't fuck with those guys kind of type vibe with the new generation. They're all pretty nice,
yeah.
you know.
Like, I think
I
it's
can
just
see it
kind of,
happening between East and West though. Like,
mm,
if you really don't know somebody. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. I think there's like, yeah, part of it is there's been a sort of mentality change. And then part of it too, sometimes, like, depending on the person, I guess, like, if you want to make this a job, you can't be like, yo, fuck you, I don't like this guy. It's kind of like you can't really burn any bridges or anything like that, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
like before, when people weren't even thinking about like necessarily doing it as a job, like it was just like, I don't care, like
Yeah.
I'm gonna do what I do, and if these people don't like it, then they don't like it, and whatever. I'll just go. I got a job here or whatever. I'll just do that. But I want to keep my breaking doing this like this way. But now there's like more opportunities and stuff like that, so maybe that plays into it. But I would definitely agree. Like, I don't know. There's been a like mentality shift, and
Yeah,
who
for
knows
sure.
whether it's positive or negative, or it's neutral, or who whatever. Um, yeah, but people
Yeah,
people
no,
can
I
do
think
whatever they
that
want to do. I guess.
yeah, at the end of the day, and that's why like I see a lot of politics like over the Olympics and things like that. I'm like, yo,
Mm,
man, just it's another lane.
Yeah,
Let the
yeah.
ones that want to join the Olympics. It's like one jam every 4 years. Like, why are you getting so hyped?
Yeah.
And it's not gonna. I don't think it's gonna ruin the culture unless you
Well,
like put so much negativity in it that it will ruin. You'll be the one contributing to the ruinness
yeah.
of it.
I
But
I
yeah,
always think with, with regards to the Olympics and stuff like that, like you said, it's once every 4 years. And then like breaking lived through the 80s exploitation where
yeah,
all of the misconceptions got started and like it's still around. There's more
yeah,
people than, well, I don't know if there's more people, but there's a lot of people who know like what it really is. And then there's all the other people in the general population that like have this same 80s image of what it is, but like, it's survived, it's still here, it's still growing. And like whatever happens with the Olympics happens, but people who want it to go a certain way will take it in that direction. And if it makes sense
hmm
and it connects with people, then it's going to stick around. However it decides to
yeah,
stick around, like, if people don't get anything out of the Olympics, like it's going to die, or it'll shift into something else, and like you'll have, I don't know, sports breaking, and then you just have breaking, right?
yeah.
Or
That's
like,
exactly
you
it.
know,
You,
you'll have jams, and then you'll have like a competition. But I think, that kind of thing, you need you need people pushing things in certain directions to know like what is the limit? Where's the how far is too far? Like, oh, this is getting too far away from breaking. We got to focus and figure out like what we feel is really
mm,
important. And so then you push that. So like maybe community
yeah,
culture starts getting talked about a
yeah,
lot more, and then gets emphasized
yeah,
in events and stuff like that more and more. But it's because something like, say, the Olympics forced people to start thinking about this stuff, or like,
yeah,
you know, people talking
yeah.
about judging and what's important, what do you need to look at. And now people are starting to think about a lot of like, well, what am I actually doing when I'm breaking? And they're actually starting to think like deeper than, yeah, you just go out and do your thing and feel it and this kind of thing. Like that's all well and good, but like if you want to push these things in certain directions or have it grow, like you just got to start thinking about it more and more.
Yeah,
And
and that's what it is. All I gotta say is like, yeah, when I started, we just had to break in a parking lot. And there
yeah.
was no jam, and there was no prize money, and there's no judges. It's just your pride.
Hmm.
So it's come a long way. So
Yeah.
that's like, I think breaking would be different if we grew up in that generation when we were just starting out or something like that. Maybe we would be breaking a lot differently. But I
Hmm.
think every generation, every era should be proud of what they've laid the
Hmm.
bricks down for the future generation.
Hmm.
And just let them be, like, and then support it in what way you can, and hopefully it will. This kind of like exposure to the general media again will kind of bring it back to the communities and continue to shed light on this culture. So I think there's a lot of different ways you can take it. It's up to the individual of how they want to go about it at this point. Or you can just be
Yeah.
mad forever and keyboard warrior it all day, all night.
Yeah.
Okay, go do your thing,
Yeah. I mean,
do
yeah,
what
it
you
doesn't
gotta
help
do.
that everyone's kind of like at home all the time, and
Yeah,
what do
such
you
a
got to
weird
do?
time right now.
You have like the internet at your fingertips, and that's a whole other like story to get into, is like, what is the internet kind of
Yeah.
doing to people and stuff like that,
Yeah, the internet and this isolation.
and
Like, I have
isolation.
like a
Yeah.
little 3 foot area to like try and do a move, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just so hard to like break these days. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I just wish everybody well, and hopefully everybody's doing okay during this time, because now it's
Hmm.
all just about sitting around and dreaming about breaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because maybe some of us can't even practice properly.
Yeah. But that's one of the things that I thought about in recent years too, of like, you know, you can do breaking, or you can, I guess it's me personally, like I've moved more into like I just like movement and interesting, like, yeah, just movement, and it's not necessarily like breaking,
Yeah.
right? And I guess part of that is just my personal influences, like meeting people like Emmanuel and Ilan and from like Tentacle Tribe, and
Mhm.
just the people in Vancouver that I dance with, and like our group Oro and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
meeting people just from different communities and whatever. So it's gotten me interested in just like
Yeah.
moving and
Movement.
not necessarily breaking. So like, maybe that's a good opportunity for people, like they have limited space. How does their style change in that space? And like that's a challenge to overcome. Like, and that's like the creativity, right? Like I always think creativity is a
Yeah.
response to some kind of problem, whether you create that problem for yourself to solve, of like,
Hmm.
I want to be an original b-boy or b-girl. Like that's a problem that you're trying to solve. How do I do something that's different than all these people? And that's like super vague, but whatever. But it could be something like, I have no space to do like footwork. So how do I adapt my style to the current environment that it's in? And like
Yeah.
that's something that I think, especially with say like ciphers and stuff like that, like, you can practice in this giant practice space and do all these crazy things, but if you're in a circle, it's a different environment, and like you can't do the same
Yeah.
stuff that you could do in that environment. So how do you adapt it to this smaller space?
Yeah.
And like, sometimes it's like the first time I stepped into a circle, I was like, oh man, this kind of sucks. Like I can't do any of this stuff that I normally did,
So tight.
right?
Yep.
And then you just kind of learn to adapt and shift things, and like, all right, well, I can't do this full combo because if I keep doing it, I'm gonna smack this guy in the face. Like, all right, I gotta cut it short and then just do something else, and whatever. Like, you
Yeah.
know, it's a big part is like adapting. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a beautiful dance. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've like but your conversation just reminded me of like people getting injured in my crew and adapting. Like I remember Arthur, B-Boy 7, he had a
Mm-hmm.
broken hand, and so he was for like a month and a half. He
Damn.
was breaking with one arm. Then his style looked exactly like Arthur's style, but with one armed, and he's moving just as fast. So it was like
Mm-hmm.
super trippy. And then
Yeah.
Dark like shattered his elbow, so he had one of those
Oh.
casts like from here to here. He's like he didn't break in it though, but then like I think he's the one of the guys that got injured the most in the crew.
Oh
That
man.
he always had to have a comeback, but like having that drive to like adapt and try and like um,
Mm-hmm.
come back from injury is something else. But yeah, I totally agree with the creative problem solving.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know Kyle's style. He mentioned that it was like it's like a maze. Like he put himself in the most awkward, weird position. He's like, how do I get out of this?
Yeah.
And I'll
There
do
you
it
go.
over and over again. And I think that's how you learn your body.
Mm-hmm.
Like so many, like there's a lot of people in my crew like have so many different styles and ways of thinking to their
Mm-hmm.
styles, and to
Mm-hmm.
think to it's like, oh yeah, you're right. Like if you just put yourself in a fucked up position, like, okay, how many ways can I get out of this?
Yeah.
So yeah, like I totally agree with the creativity and trying to find a way. But I think for me specifically, because I'm just older,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard to get motivation when you're older now. It's just like, I try, and I was like, I can't even break. I have like work tomorrow, and like just like that's like the real life shit that people go through. Is like, oh man,
Yeah.
I gotta pay the bills, and you gotta go to work.
Yeah. Yeah, but
So
but
trying to
even
find a
that,
motivation.
is
Mhm.
like, you're, maybe it's not the physical environment that's changed, but it's like your life environment, your like relationships and
Yeah,
work and this kind of thing that's changed. And
yeah,
sometimes it's like, okay, well now how do I adapt that? Because I guess anyone who gets older and they have more
Mhm.
responsibilities and stuff like that, just stuff changes, right? And so, it's like, if you want to keep doing this thing, if you want to, let's say you want to keep breaking, like how do you adapt it to be able to fit your new lifestyle or whatever?
Mhm.
And it's like, I guess in a lot of ways would start to be more about the mental side of like, uh and it kind of gets into what I was talking about with like the longer you go, the more you start to kind of think about, say, community or whatever. But like,
Yeah.
the status game of like chasing to be like the best dancer or whatever, like it's like, what do you call it? There's like a zero sum game. Like there's only one person who can be the best, right? And
Yeah.
even if they're incredible, they're only going to be there for a certain amount of time, and then someone else is
Yeah.
going to overtake
Before
them.
someone else.
And there's
Yeah.
only one who can do that. But
Yeah.
something like, say, building community and giving back, or whatever, like that brings everyone up, right? That's like a
Yeah, for sure.
whatever. What's the opposite of zero sum game? A
I
positive
have
sum
no
game. Like everyone
idea.
benefits from that.
Yeah.
But even like this is my personal experience of like, I'm getting older and stuff is starting to like, you start to feel the wear and tear a bit more,
Yeah.
and it's like I've had to change my approach to things, and like I don't have necessarily the time or the motivation to sit there and like create a bunch of new things all the time, or even train like super hard to win a battle or go far in a battle
Yeah.
or something like that. So like now it's just kind of, for me personally, it's just like I just do it to move around and enjoy moving, and then just enjoy
Yeah.
connecting with music and stuff like that. And I'm sure a lot of people have that same sort of
Yeah.
experience. Yeah.
Like the fire goes, like the wanting to be like the best, like, and just smoke somebody. It's like you just come to a point where you're just like, I have nothing really to prove anymore. Like, I don't
Yeah,
fucking care if I
exactly.
lose.
Yeah, yeah.
But then you do enjoy dancing, you do enjoy breaking with your crew and stuff,
Hmm,
like it's
hmm,
it's that stuff that you miss.
hmm,
But the whole motivation to even break is like it's really difficult to kind of pull it out of you. Like,
hmm.
because when you're young, you can just like coin drop without stretching, and now it's just like, hold
Yeah, yeah,
on, give
yeah.
me a second, like it's just it's hard to turn it on, like
Hmm,
as you get older, But
hmm.
I'm turning 41 this year,
Yeah.
and I think one of my last years of like actively competing was like 2014, like 34 years old. Like, so that says that's kind of like where I said to myself, 35, I'm gonna retire,
Hmm.
like, because like I think on myself and what I need to do to just be a good human being in this world.
Hmm.
Like if you're not the best by the time you're 35, or not something like that, because there's a ton of people that are the best, like you better start thinking options and priorities are
Hmm.
as you move forward, because I mean, and there's a lot of ways to stay in the hip hop game and breaking, whether it's through throwing competition or giving back to the community. Like, there's other things
Hmm.
you can do with this dance and what you've learned from it. But
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, there is. I agree with you. There is a place. There's a point where like it's a, if you're not even just being the best, like winning competition into competition is that's a hard gig to as a career. So
Yeah.
like really trying to apply yourself into a lot of different directions,
Hmm.
and in what you've learned from this dance, it's hard to be the
Hmm.
best.
Yeah, and it's just like priorities change, and your mentality and your thinking about the dance will change, and over time. And that's totally natural. Yeah.
Yeah, it is natural.
Hmm.
And that's why, like, with my crew, I'm just like, yo man, like if you're not trying to be the best, then try and find a way to apply what you learn.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, shout out to my crew. They're doing their thing.
Hmm.
As long as you're happy. That's at the end of the day. As long as you're happy with what you're doing, then you can't complain about anything.
Yeah,
As long
yeah.
as you're happy with what you do. So it's
It's
all good.
like shift that mentality into different avenues. You're not the best. You're not can't be the best dancer, but you can be the best like mom or dad or something like that. Or you can be the best like um yeah, whatever your job is or something like that. Just shift it into that.
And just kind of like relish in the memories that you have of battling. Like I think everybody at one point had like a dope ass battle, or
Mm,
one of the hypest battles they've ever been in, and not a lot of people in their lifetime will even experience that kind of excitement
it's very
of
true.
just
Yeah.
like winning or having the heart to go all the way. Like like and the moments, not just like the actual competitions or the battles, but in the in betweens, like hopping on a plane with your friend and talking that shit, and or going on that long ass drive. Like those are the memories that you make, and I think a lot of people, this dance has blessed us with the ability to like travel and meet new people across the country and speak a language where you can show up in any country and be like, yo man, I'm a breaker, I need a place to stay, or show me where the
Yeah.
practice is. Like that kind of versatility within our culture, like it's blessed a lot of us to like experience the world, and I think that's super dope, like
Yeah.
in itself. So that's why like continuing to teach and let people know, like, man, there's a lot to do out there. I remember going to IBE like in 2012. I was like, fuck, I should have done this shit 10 years ago. Remember I told you like, yo, I support everything in Canada, and then when I went go to like IB level like competition, I was like, man, if I came here when I was like 24, I'd be like the shit right now. But I'm so old. Like I'm already 32. I'm so old to like see this now. I should have saw this like 10 years ago or something.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
in some cases, I regret like going to more international competitions, but I am proud with the network and the people that I've met within Canada, because
Yeah.
I think it's important to really just set the set the foundation so Canadians can like come up properly, So, but yeah, like had exciting times like battling throughout the years, smoking people, getting smoked. I was a fiery one in my 20s back in the day. A lot of
Yeah.
yelling and swearing. Now I'm just super chill.
Yeah.
Super chill.
But it's like people got to go through stages and stuff, right? So it's all good.
Yeah, it's all good, yo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's maybe a good spot to cut it for now, and then
for
hopefully
sure.
sometime down the road we can have another chat and share some more stories or just get into other some. There's a lot of stuff that like we were getting into just now that I want to go into a little deeper, but uh, that'll probably lead us down like
Yeah,
another hour or whatever, I think.
a
So
little rabbit hole. Like,
yeah,
trust
exactly.
me, I
So
know. I talk a lot. I preach a lot about breaking, and I like to go deep with a lot of
hmm
thoughts of like how people think
hmm
about it. So
yeah,
thank you for letting me share some of my thoughts on your
yeah,
webcast. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, and hopefully down in the future, like I said, we can do it again and just have it be a little more because now we got the history out of the way and we can just get into talking about random stuff that's interesting to us or that's relevant to the times or whatever. Yeah.
Dope, dope. Yeah, man. Shout outs to Razzy D, Filthee Feet, and all the West Coast. And shout outs to
Awesome.
my crew, Dangerous Goods, Maximum Efficiency, Wintor Massiv, Unity Charity Blueprint. My wife Virginia, artstherapy.ca if you need some therapy.
Yeah.
And yeah, everybody else out there, big shout outs to all the Canadians. Fucking, we're dope. Let's keep it moving.
Yeah.
We're all dope.
Agreed. All right. Thanks everybody for listening and watching and supporting the channel and the podcast and stuff like that. So, and thank you, Bob, for taking the time to share your story. It was really good. And if anyone
Sure.
doesn't know about him, now you know. And like he's one of the people that I think is part of Canadian breaking history that you should know about him. Everyone should know about him. So yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, we'll catch everyone later. All right. Peace.
Now